Hi, everybody. It's Susie Singer Carter, and I just wanted to take a minute to tell you about a wonderful product I just discovered. It's called Sociavi, and Sociavi in Latin means to share and unite. It is the simplest way for older adults and people with disabilities to connect and engage with their family and friends. There's no username, no password, no login, and no app to choose from. It's just a dedicated device. It's the Sociavi C2M Connect to Me device that's always on and ready to use. And families and caregivers just install the app on their smartphone. And then you can just begin sending photos, videos, and even have live-to-live video chats. And your loved ones, they don't have to do anything. They just love it. And because all of us must fight elder abuse and work together to bring awareness to this issue, Sociavi is supporting my efforts to produce my vital documentary, No Country for Old People. When you subscribe to Sociavi for your loved ones, they will donate the payments received, and you can help us reach our goal while connecting with your loved ones in the simplest way. Sociavi, connecting generations made simple globally. To learn more, please visit their website at www.sociavi.com. And when choosing the payments, select the annual subscription. The proceeds will go to help the production of our documentary, No Country for Old People, and I thank you so much.
When the world has got you down.
Alzheimer's sucks. It's an equal opportunity disease that chips away at everything we hold dear. And to date, there's no cure. So until there is, we continue to fight with the most powerful tool in our arsenal, love. This is Love Conquers Alls, a real and really positive podcast that takes a deep dive into everything Alzheimer's, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And now, here are your hosts, Susie Singer Carter and me, Don Priest.
Hello, everybody. This is Susie Singer Carter.
And I'm Don Priest, and this is Love Conquers Alls. Hello, Susan.
Hi, Donald.
What's happened? What's up? What's going on?
Well, let's see. Well, I spent the weekend with my two little grandbabies, and I'm tired.
And they're little, and they're energetic. And one of them's 3, and the other one's 8 months.
Uh-huh.
And, oh my goodness.
They're so cute. I'll put a picture
cute.
up. I'll put a picture up in the edits because, you know, it's why wouldn't
What you got to
I?
do. There's no reason you wouldn't.
Right?
But, yeah, they are chock full of energy. And,
Yeah.
So you had the 3-year-old for 2 days, is that correct?
I did. And we went to the park. And, you know, I just want to say I'm trying to get fit again because I've been, you know, working so much, and I forget that when you're writing or if you're editing, it's like you're in a time warp. There's something weird that happens, like you start at 9 a.m. and then you look up and you go, no, it's not 4 p.m. And it is. And I've been sitting at my desk. So I started running, and I've been running between like 6 to 8 miles each time. That's freaking good, I think.
That's too much. That's too much for me. It makes me tired. You know, it actually burns calories. Just think about it. It burns calories. So.
Well, it hurts my feet. Does anybody have any suggestions? Because my feet hurt. I got new shoes,
I have one.
And it's helping. What?
Don't run. I don't run.
But I'm getting like midlife belly. But I don't know where it's coming from. But
are you showing your midlife belly?
I'm trying to show my midlife belly. There's a little.
Why do you think I wear black? I've had midlife belly for like 10 years. And I don't even run, so I guess we're even. I don't even have to run.
We're not even because you eat you eat like Jethro, and I eat like a bird, and it's still happening. And I'm running 8 miles, and it's not happening. So I need advice. I need diet advice, you guys. I don't know what's going on.
She's been considering, does she fast? Anyone know about fasting? Can you tell us about that? I don't know about that. I consider a fast 1 hour of not eating. That's a fast.
That's right. And here's the thing. You know, I don't know if it's all midlife. I do think, and let's get to the caregiver part, like the past year, I've been under a lot of stress. And so,
which can cause that
Right.
type of thing. That causes
Yeah.
that.
What's that
brings up
hormone?
what is the? It's called the. Here, somebody out there is going. Doy. It's the.
it's cortisol, Dawn. Duh.
It is. I was going to say that,
Oh, so
but I didn't.
But you didn't. So, okay. Okay, I'll be transparent. I did stop the recording and look it up.
And look it up. I was going to say, that good poll, Susan.
Yeah,
Great poll.
I know. Yeah, from my Google on my phone. Anyway, my cortisol level is raging and has been raging. So I think, and apparently that makes you, and then lack of sleep also can add the poundage on.
Yeah, so it's stress, lack of sleep, sitting at your desk for 8 to 10 hours without standing up. These are all, they're elements that could cause and is absolutely causing what's going on right now, because there's no other answer.
So why are you saying
exercise
I'm fat?
like a fiend.
Are you saying I'm fat?
I didn't say that.
You just said it. You just said it.
No, I said
What's happening right now?
Oh no, I shouldn't use air quotes. Is that I'm not allowed to use air quotes, correct?
No.
Okay, I will not use any air quotes in this episode. I promise. No
See,
more.
I can't show below my waist. There's a tiny bit of crap happening. I like my body. I'm fine. I'm positive.
Yeah. You know how many people are going, shut up. You know
No,
how many people are out there going, shut up.
No,
shut up. Oh,
I
that's
get,
me.
I get it, but here's the thing: when you have like certain size clothes and all your clothes are that size, and suddenly it doesn't fit, it becomes very expensive.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's why I
depressing.
give you all my old jeans. So you
I
can
do.
just
I
put them on.
like Dawn's old jeans. I rip them up and I make them look cool. Anyway,
Yeah.
we digress.
Well, where are we?
Well, I'm trying to make things light because the topic we're going to talk about today is a little bit heavy, a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It's okay. Sometimes we have to hear the bad so we can get to the good. We have to go through the weeds so we can get to the flowers. Look at that.
Absolutely.
I
Wow.
was
And our guest is like a gardener who gets us through those weeds and to the flowers.
She does. She's amazing. She's from Australia, and I love her accent. And she's beautiful woman, I should say, and
Yes.
beautiful inside and out. We interviewed her for No Country for Old People, and I was like, oh my God, our audience on Love Conquers All is going to love you because she's an expert in dementia, Dawn, and also works for the Adult Protection Services, which I had no idea what they did. So
Yeah.
this is going to be a great show. Yay.
Indeed. I'll tell you all about her. Are you ready?
Yeah.
With over 20 years of international experience, Bettina MORROW started her career in her home country of Australia before moving to the UK. There, she practiced social work for 9 years, eventually leading to her move to the U.S. Bettina has spent the last 15 years working with at-risk and vulnerable adults with specific expertise in elder abuse, dementia, and guardianship. She has obtained a Bachelor of Social Work and a Master's in Dementia, is a nationally certified guardian, and is presented at state and national conferences. We are absolutely thrilled to have her here today, so let's not wait another moment and say hello to Bettina MORROW. Hello, Bettina.
Hello,
Hi,
good
Bettina.
afternoon. Hi.
So happy to have you on this show. And like we interviewed you for the documentary, and I realized you're just an amazing resource for this show because of all that you're doing in the dementia arena, and which is really rare. So happy to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. I was very excited to be asked, so it's definitely my pleasure to be here.
Oh, good. And we like your accent, so there's a bonus.
There you go.
Bonus accent, you guys.
Yeah.
So Dawn introduced you, and I think, I'm just, and like I said in our interview for No Country for Old People, it's amazing to me that there are so few, if any. I don't think I've met anyone other than in our community outside of any facilities that have studied and really have a focus in dementia and are hands-on, which you have done. And I think it's I can't believe that you are the unicorn in this. I mean, almost everybody. How many people do you reckon in your studies end up with some form of dementia or Alzheimer's?
Actually, the largest population group of at-risk adults that we work with have a form of dementia, Alzheimer's. So I would say that the way that we measure the data, though, has different elements. At the intake phase, we have over 30%, but I would say that number is increasingly much, much higher, because what we often find is we go out to meet people and they've clearly got actually cognitive deficits that we can identify based on our training and our skills. So I would say it's well in excess of like half of who we interact with have cognitive deficits.
See, that just blows my mind, because you figure that people that are in this industry and they've made it their career choice and their business choice to take care of people in this population, in this demographic, who like you said have a really high percentage, somewhere between 30 to 40%, maybe more, and that they absolutely know zero about the disease and the progression of it and how it manifests and how it presents. And so, well, so what made you move? Let's talk about you first. Like, what made you choose this focus for your career?
Yeah, my career actually started working with children, but after about 11 years of working with children, I had the opportunity to transition into working with adults in a hospital discharge in an inner city London hospital. And I found that literally within my first week, I was like, I love children, but I love older adults way more. There was something about it. And as I was going through my training process to transition my skill set, specifically around risk assessment, into the adult world, I really honed in on dementia, because that was a big part of our population group and people who had experienced strokes, and was fascinated by everything that came with dementia, especially the neurobiology side of it. And then how are we as a hospital treating and caring for people with dementia specific to their needs and not just as a patient? So my love and my passion and interest really developed way back in 2009. And I really then started to dedicate myself really to the adult protection, adult safeguarding arena, and really emphasize that with the dementia population, because what we know is people who are at risk of elder abuse, one of the single largest risk factors is having a cognitive deficit. So as the years progressed and I furthered my studies, I eventually led myself into the direction of undertaking a master's in dementia through the University of Tasmania in Australia, which is an incredibly unique master's. It is, as far as I'm aware, the only university in the world that offers a master's program that is just on dementia. It's not gerontology, it is just on dementia. So your 4 components that you focus on being health and social welfare and care, policy, and policy is international. So it's not just focused on Australian policy, it is international policy on dementia.
Wow.
Neurobiology, that was definitely something I had to knuckle down on. And public health, which was interesting because I was studying also at the time that COVID swept around the globe. So amazing opportunity, incredible university that not only offers this level of study, but also offers free training certificates to anybody. Their commitment to educating people on dementia is so external and so far from just making any levels of money from tuition. They offer this course to anybody around the world, and it has gained incredible success and notoriety in how beneficial it actually has been to professionals and to families who can sit at home at 12 o'clock at night, because that's when they're actually up and actually learn what is happening to their loved ones. It's an incredible, they call it a MOOC. It's a massive online open course. I highly recommend it to anyone. All of my new staff are required to undertake the MOOCs as part of their orientation to their employment with me.
Good on you. So, wait, as far as, so when you say my staff, what is your company?
What do I
when
do?
You say you're still,
Sure.
yeah.
So I work for a local county government. I oversee a team of investigators. I work within Adult Protection Services in Colorado. So we investigate allegations of abuse, neglect, exploitation for at-risk adults. And our largest population is older adults, but we also include people who have intellectual and developmental disabilities. But our largest group is definitely investigating where there's been abuse of some description to an older adult in the community, as well as in facilities. So we cover facilities as well in the state of Colorado.
And what led you to that section of, was there an experience that you had? Was it just hearing what was going on? What led to that?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting sort of historical component. When I transitioned from children into adults within this hospital in London, they were just introducing safeguarding adults, which is the same as adult protection. It was just being formalized and introduced into their system. And at that time, my staff that I had in London, their whole role was about discharge planning. They had no training or education on risk assessments and how to undertake any sort of investigation. So I was in a really unique position that I could take all of my historical child protection, risk assessment, forensic interviewing skills and adapt it to the adult sector that we were working with. So I then started to produce a lot of the trainings for all of the staff to help them navigate these new policies and procedures of safeguarding adults within the London system. Mm-hmm. And from there, I became the adult safeguarding manager that oversaw the service within for that particular team within the hospital. And then 10 years ago, I moved to the United States, and in the States, we have a very well-structured adult protection services across the country. And so when I was looking for jobs, there was a position right there, and I was like, that's mine. I'm going for it. It's my position. It's got my name on it. And I was very lucky, and sure enough, I got the job.
I'm so glad you did. And you answered one of my questions. I was going to say, in terms of adult protection services, which I don't think any of us really know what they do. And, first of all, it is state by state, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct. But there are guidelines from the federal government that says because it's financed, it's paid for through taxpayer, right?
Yeah, but not through the federal government. So we are working on that. So you're right. So it is state by state. There's some guidelines at the federal level from some associations, but there's no regulations that come down from the federal government because we don't have any federal funding. So each state has to fund their own program through whatever measures they've actually determined internally. So there is currently actually a process that's undergoing to look at federal guidelines being implemented for adult protection, and how do we look at uniting across the country some of the larger beliefs and practices that underpin all of our practices across the country.
Right. So who does fund the programs? Or the
and so you're correct. It is taxpayers. So it's taxpayers' dollars through the state level.
Through the state level. So, all right. So here's the crappy question, and that is, how much power do you have as an adult protection service agent? If I'm to call you up and say my mom is being neglected and abused, and here's where, what would be the next steps taken, and how, and with all due respect, and I mean like 1,000 pounds of respect for you, it's like, I know what goes on out there in these programs, and especially state to state, and when they're not really highly regulated, that also means they're not highly
enforced.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is actually the risk of some elements of not being enforced. So quick summary, a referral will come in. We have hotlines. Referral can come into our hotline. We gather specific information that helps us determine per our legislation and our rule and our policies what the guidelines are that we're looking for. If it meets those criteria, we will undertake an investigation where we interview the client, collateral contacts, their power of attorneys, family members. We work with police if it's appropriate, if we've got a very identified, clear criminal activity that's occurring. Our first and foremost is to mitigate risk, to improve safety and mitigate risk. That's our first and foremost. From there, we do case plans to see how we can better support the at-risk adult to lead a healthier, safer life, predominantly to age well in the community. And as part of that process, in the state of Colorado, and this is different across all the states, we do actually have findings. So we conclude our investigation per a finding and determine whether the finding has actually occurred. So it could either be substantiated, inconclusive, or unsubstantiated. And that is against who the person is that's been identified as the alleged perpetrator. And so an alleged perpetrator can be anybody. It can be a family member, it can be a neighbor, it can be a con artist, it can be a professional guardian, a professional nursing home staff member, it can be anybody. Their names can be placed on a list within Colorado that then is legally required by certain employees to check to determine if they have been substantiated as causing harm to an at-risk adult. The goal is to reduce the number of specifically professionals that bounce between employments and continue to cause harm to at-risk adults and vulnerable people. A real specific area of that is to really look at the nursing home industry, and because they're so grossly understaffed, and it's so easily to just jump between nursing homes and never be tracked for the abuse or the exploitation that they may actually be causing to at-risk adults, especially for people with dementia who maybe aren't able to advocate for themselves clearly, to say, I am being harmed, I'm being physically hurt, I'm being neglected, they're stealing money from my drawer, being the most popular vulnerability. So that's a quick synopsis. So in some ways we do, because we can put people's names on the registry, which can impact their employment, their future employment. We work very strongly with the law enforcement departments to really push for criminal prosecutions and going through the justice system. We really believe that to make progress in this area, people have to be held accountable. And if they're not shown that there are consequences, people will continue to do it. There are limitations, though. Fully recognize there are limitations in what we can and can't do, which are incredibly frustrating at times.
Do you oversee the system, though? Meaning that if it's a systematic problem within a nursing home where it's just, from the top down, you're talking about the individual, right. But when it's the practice,
right?
That was
going to
be my
that
question.
at all?
Yeah. Well, because you have, if you're indicting, a CNA or whatever, the director of nursing, that's an employee of, and so what? Sometimes, obviously, there's bad people out there, just individuals who are awful and take advantage.
And bravo for you going after them.
For sure. But a lot of the neglect comes from the top down.
Huge
Amount. So, which is
Yes.
what you mentioned, understaffing. So, let's talk about those cases, because those are the most under the radar. Those are the things that are under the radar, and everyone thinks, well, they don't understand that this is the norm. This is the standard, folks.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not going to tell you, Susie, anything new when you hear the statistic that 70% of nursing homes across the United States are actually privately owned. Right. The business of providing care to older adults in a residential care setting is big business. There is a lot of money. It is millions and millions and millions of dollars of profit that is made off the back of very vulnerable people. These systematic issues of understaffing, there is so much research, and it's not even just the United States. There's actually international research that shows how regularly for-profit facilities will intentionally understaff to increase their profit margin. And not only will they intentionally understaff, they will not employ the right educational and training levels. So instead of having a population group that needs 3 nurses and 10 CNAs, they will intentionally employ 1 nurse and 5 CNAs. So that's understaffed, and it's a complete deficit in the actual skill and training of those that are physically there. That is definitely something we see. We have investigated that. Within my particular service, the furthest that our remit can go is that we can actually hold administrators and directors responsible. I would say my team is one of the few that will actually go that far. I wouldn't say even though it's permissible, it's not maybe as common a practice. Our belief is that you're being paid six figures. Your job is to be responsible for the care of everybody there. You may not directly be actually providing bathing, but the staffing is your responsibility. And if you knowingly are aware that your business, the home, whatever you want to refer it to, is intentionally being understaffed, you will be held accountable. Because we have had situations where people have died. We're not just talking about they didn't get their meals on time or they didn't get the bath or the shower when they wanted. We're talking about abuse and neglect that is so serious and chronic that people haven't been bathed in a month, that they have not received their medications, that there is nobody providing wound management. We've had a situation where somebody who had zero qualifications or training in wound management was administering it. And we've had people who have died because their wounds have become so exacerbated and then they've developed sepsis that the wound is an open hole. Like you can see down to the bone. And I realize it's hard for people, the general public, who don't visually see the forensic photographs of what this looks like, but it's horrifying and it's agonizing. It is absolutely torturous to do this to anyone. So we will go as far as them. The part that we don't have the power is we can't supersede that. So the actual management companies that often enforce the reduced staffing levels, we don't have direct access to for accountability. And I know, Susie, in a previous conversation I had shared with you a situation we had investigated here that was incredibly serious, and we were looking very closely at the administrator, and the administrator actually came back to us, and not that this excused what happened, but was able to show very clear evidence that they had been communicating with the management company about the seriousness of the state of the nursing home and how desperately he needed funds to be released to get staff in because of actually the risk to residents, and the management company saying no. I'm like,
yep.
I mean, you couldn't get any clearer than that.
You can't get any clearer than that. It's so heartbreaking. Yeah. So I get asked this, or I get told this a lot from people as I'm trying, raising money and interviewing people and trying to get this as public as possible, this problem. And I get a lot of like, yeah, there are bad places, Susie, but there's some really great places. I mean, how would you answer that if someone said that to you?
And I'm sure they do.
And no, and I would say, there actually, I would say that there actually are a couple that I have actually been somewhat surprised about, that actually, I'm like, goodness, like I turn up unannounced, and like this place is like, they've got all the staff that they're supposed to have, if not actually more. At some points I'm like, why is there 2 activities coordinators here? Like it's like 2, and they're actively engaged, and they almost look like they're enjoying themselves, like as if this is what they want to be doing. But what I would say, that it's not just a few bad apples. This is a chronic issue that is across the country. And in some ways, I would almost compare it to society's unwillingness or inability to accept how serious domestic violence is, to accept how serious and chronic child abuse is, or sexual assault of women. You just don't want to actually acknowledge or maybe fully understand how rampant some of these issues are. And unfortunately, the crisis we have within nursing homes is actually no different. It's not just a couple of bad ones. It is actually across the country, and it needs such significant attention to it.
Right.
Using the bad apples is, if somebody gave you a basket full of apples and 95% of them were rotting, and you say, oh, but there's a couple good ones in there.
Right.
Thank you. It's like, seriously?
Yeah. You'd want to take
Found
it
one.
back.
Found a good one. I know there's
I guess they're all good.
No,
Want a
wait, no.
refund.
No, really, it's like there's a million people that are hungry, but I found one apple. That's it.
That'll right, exactly.
Right? I mean, that's it. I also had somebody write on my post, I'm all about, I get that nursing homes need some reform, and I'm all about that, but, what I'm not about is scaring people. Well, I am. People need to be scared. I'm scared. What do you think? I mean, don't you think people need to, like you said about the wound, what you said, it was exactly my mother's, that was her journey. That's what happened to her. And I saw that wound go down to the bone, and I saw her be, no matter what, with me advocating every day, I couldn't get her to get the kind of care that she needed.
Yeah.
Talking directly to the doctor and them saying, no.
No, or we'll look into it. We'll look into it.
Yeah, we'll look into it. Yeah, which is basically no.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't want to scare people. It's not like I get a thrill out of it. I don't like scary movies. That's not my bag. But at some point, we all have to put our big girl, big boy, big person pants on and just go, this is the reality, folks. Do you agree?
Yeah, it is hugely complicated, and I get this thing they don't want to be scared, and I would never want any family I'm working with to be scared either. But I think the part that's really, really actually the most important part is that people need to be informed. How can you make a decision about your loved one if you are not informed of the reality? It's no different to if we go to our doctor and they suggest a medical procedure. If we don't know all the benefits and the risks, how can we make an informed decision about whether that's in our best interests or for our child or our parent? And nursing homes are much the same. No, we don't want to scare because we understand and appreciate that there are many people that can't continue to provide the care in their community homes. However, if we don't actually address the issue, all the people that don't want to be scared are going to be horrified when they find that it's them and their loved ones that this is happening to. So I mean, we don't want to scare people. No, of course we don't. But it's happening. It's happening right now. It's not like, oh, it's just bad luck if it does happen. People need to be informed. If you are informed, you can have a voice, and that voice can be effective for change so that future people do not have to be at risk of this happening.
Agreed.
So we have to say to people, this is what's happening behind closed doors. You should be angry about it. You should be demanding your advocates, your politicians, whoever it might be, your senators, that this will not be tolerated. It's my taxpayers' money.
Exactly.
That is paying to profit people who are intentionally causing harm and distress and pain and death.
Exactly.
That's not okay.
And I mean, even like I think about the Me Too movement or Right to Life and all those kinds of movies, movements where, growing up, you would see all these movies about abortion and women, giving themselves self-abortion because there was no place to go and it was against the law. And it's grotesque and it was awful. But those are the kinds of scenarios that impact, so that you go, because if you just say, well, the women are going to be, trying to abort themselves, that's very benign, unless you know what that entails.
Yeah,
right. And I didn't know what a bed sore was. I thought it was literally like a red mark on someone. A little sore, like you've been leaning too long on your elbow. That's it.
Yeah.
Who knows until you know. So, and also I want to talk about, since you're such a great resource for both sides of this, because you have this expertise on dementia. And I want to talk about ableism because it's rampant. Mm-hmm. And so you talk about neglect and abuse for people that are residents in a nursing home situation or long-term care, but then you add on dementia and Alzheimer's, and you've got, the ability to neglect and abuse is, I'm sure, doubled, tripled, whatever.
Yeah. Huge.
And so,
huge.
And within the industry, there, I'm sure you come up against it with very naive people that don't understand. Because I did. Mm-hmm. What? Can you speak to that?
Oh gosh. have we got long enough? The most vulnerable people that we have in nursing homes, we've got the cognitive decline. What many people don't realize is that dementia is not just about losing memory. It's actually affecting your executive functioning, your decision making, your safety awareness, and your communication. Many people, if not most, will lose their ability to speak and form sentences as the disease progresses. So they're highly vulnerable. With that, we have big issues of not just the risk of abuse, but how very undertrained and understaffed facilities address and care for people with dementia. So two big areas we see are restraints. Physical restraints that are imposed on people with dementia, and chemical restraints. So physical could be they have them to their position that they can't get out of bed freely. They have them situated in a chair with a dinner table in front of them, knowing that they can't physically move. We've even had a case where staff intentionally place furniture in front of their rooms so they couldn't even exit their room. Chemical restraints is actually an even bigger issue for me, because the amount of nursing home residents who have a diagnosis of dementia and are being prescribed antipsychotic medications is just horrifying. Antipsychotic medications are so commonly used in people with dementia, even though there is hundreds and hundreds of research papers that show the efficacy of using them is about this much, and the risk is exponential. The risk of using antipsychotropic medications increases falls, it increases the risk of stroke, heart attack, and death. And they're more likely to become more confused. Why would we do that to anyone? To anybody? Why would we do that?
Because it's easier for the staff.
Because it's easier, exactly. And it's because of form of sedating. We just sedate. And they use off-label. I talked recently in a different podcast about an actual federal review that was being undertaken about the inappropriate use of psychotropic medications on nursing home residents with dementia. And one of the interesting things they found is that throughout part of this study, an overview, was over a period of time, is that the prescriptions of them actually went down. But what happened was that magically a whole bunch of older adults with dementia suddenly had schizophrenia listed on their face sheet, on their diagnosis sheet. Because it's not recorded the same way.
That's right.
Prescribing antipsychotic or psychotropic medications to someone with schizophrenia is not recorded the same way as it is with dementia. So even though there was zero symptoms or medical evidence to show why they would suddenly have schizophrenia, the dots were all because it was a way of getting around government oversight. And it's largely because they don't know actually the skills and the training of how to provide true holistic person-centered care that's non-pharmaceutical. Non-pharmaceutical care holds basically zero risk to the individual.
Yeah.
Why would we balance a zero risk with death?
So I know,
But we
and
do.
and you talked about it. And my mom was a victim of Depakote, so I know what it does to people. And I didn't know she was on it until it was a bit too late, when her regular doctor said, "Your mom's on Depakote, and it's a black label drug for someone with dementia." And she lost her mobility, and she became incontinent. When we got her off of it, she didn't gain either of those back. And her cognitive, level went down, of course. So, but here's what you hear as a caregiver is that this is the natural progression of dementia and Alzheimer's. Yeah, it looks like it because they've pushed you like 7 stages. So, and then they say, but this is what happens, honey. This is what happens. This is the natural progression. So, when my mom was, when they were trying to kick her out the door, basically they'd go, this is the progression. This is how people with Alzheimer's die. Yeah, that's how everyone dies, but that's what death looks like. But how does that justify her being at this point now?
Right, yeah. And they're not the same things. They're completely, yes, everyone dies. And, there are stages of dementia, and if you're not fully drugged up on psychotropic medications, you actually can observe those stages of dementia. But when you expedite that, by giving them prescription drugs that are not clinically tested on people with dementia, that's not even like the same argument at all. It's not even within the same sort of like remit of discussion. Often what we hear is facility staff or professionals in the healthcare system say to families, it'll make them more comfortable. It's like, that's not informed consent. That's not informed consent at all. It's like, well, let's see, what else have you done to make them more comfortable? Like, what actually have you done? Like, how many facilities, their staff members truly understand and or practice that if you walk up from behind for someone with dementia and put your hand on their arm from behind, the absolute fear that imposes. Peripheral vision actually is lost with dementia as the plaques and tangles actually started to deteriorate the cells and actually literally shrinkage of the brain. Peripheral vision is something that's actually lost in people with dementia. So they don't even, not only walking from behind, but even standing to the side, they can't sense that. The education levels are actually very, very low. We also know from studies that even for staff members who hold higher levels of education, their ability to recognize delirium is grossly inadequate. And delirium is an incredibly high medical issue that actually occurs in nursing homes and specifically with people with dementia. So there's a lot of education. Often you'll see on websites like, oh, all of our staff undertook a tip of snow training, and so we're all so qualified, and they're like, well, that's great, but don't bring tip of snow into it, because we know that you're not actually, like, you did it once 5 years ago and your staff have turned over like tenfold since then,
right.
None of them are actively doing it anyway. So
right, it's like taking CPR when you have a baby and saying, well, I took CPR 20 years ago, I'm good to go.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about the big question, which is ethics, because there's it just feels to me, and I know this sounds very nihilistic, but I can't help it since I've got to this place after all of my hell last year, is to say we have to really sit back and think about, why are we keeping our loved ones alive to suffer? Because when they say that they're more comfortable, would you want to be in a room all day long by yourself? Yeah. Would you want to be flipped like a pancake back and forth because no one's taking care of your wound, but they're going through motions of like, look, we're taking care of her, we're flipping her, and would you want to not eat food for a year of your life? But is that comfort? And why are we keeping people alive?
Or is that torture? Yeah.
Is that torture?
Yeah.
And the ethics of it, to me, because the last thing I wanted was my mom to die. Like, my best friend, love her, my favorite person in the world, next to Dawn. But
I was going to say, come on.
But I finally got to that point, like the week before she died. I was like, I can't anymore. Like, I can't. And this is just torture. Like, my mom is being tortured. And you just want to, and there's nothing you can do. And, as I started to learn the structure of the business of nursing homes and long-term care, I realized they're just making money off of her. They're warehousing her.
Yeah. That's a big area. Ethics is a very challenging area, and there are a lot of hard questions that need to be asked in that area. And Susie, I think that there are many, many families that go through probably similar experiences that you have. Like, I want to keep my loved one alive, but is it really the quality of life that they actually wanted? Like, is this really what they would want if they were here looking down on themselves? We go through a lot of that. So with the service that I work in, we are guardians for a number of people who don't have family members. So we're their court-appointed guardians, and we make all their legal, social, medical decisions. And it's paramount for us that we treat everybody with such humanity and really balance out where do we draw the line of enhancing their quality of life, and then how do we also educate other people that we work with on areas like end of life and CPR. CPR is not like the movies. It's not, you don't get pulled out of a river and you give CPR and like they cough and splutter and everything's good and fine. CPR on an 80-year-old person who is had dementia or has osteoporosis or has like any number of chronic issues, that's not what's going to happen. The chances of it actually being successful are so minimal. The chances of them living for a short while and having chronic brain damage are actually really high. Their lungs being completely shuttered and puncturing their lungs through the process are really high. These questions of quality of life and ethics are really big. The team that we've developed, we have a very specialized guardianship program, is a constant conversation around how do we promote what we know is important to that individual. We also have no play in the game except for to do the right thing. Right. Our service doesn't. We don't have any profits to make, so it's different. Add an element where there's profits to make, especially if you're just leaving someone there.
So as a guardian, which is really interesting that you guys become these professional guardians for people. So you, in essence, go up against the same issues that we are.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so, like you said, you have to make decisions. But it feels like you should have an edge because they should have some more respect and fear of you as someone who works in adult protective service. You would think, like if you walked in and saw that one of your, people were in a hot room on their side, no music, no nothing, not eating. I mean, what will you do? How would you handle that? Because you're up against this huge machine, and even though you're fierce and awesome, and your team is fierce and awesome, how do you handle it?
Yeah. I feel like we're probably pretty annoying to people because I work full acknowledgement to my team because I work with the most exceptional people, and especially the guardianship caseworkers that manage our guardianship clients and all the aspects of their life. They are incredible. There is no topic we won't get into at all. We will challenge and we will speak to any staff member at any time and repeatedly. And we will go over and over and over and over their rights, our expectation, the case plan, if the long-term care ombudsman needs to get involved. If we need to, we'll investigate them for actually caretaker neglect of our guardian. If they're clearly not actually doing it, that's an element, that's a process that we could go down. But my staff are professional, they are educated, they are intelligent, and they themselves are, I want to say they're brave. They know that our clients come first, and they will push and advocate for them with every breath that they have, of every minute that they are within a nursing home and outside. And we have nursing homes who will a month later say, oh yeah, no, we changed their medications and prescribed them this antipsychotic. And we're like, you legally have zero rights to do that. And then we have to go through this whole conversation again. So yes, you would think that we have more power or that they may listen to us, but I guess that holds to the actual point. If we have that as the state entity that investigates abuse and neglect, if we still have to deal with that, how big of an issue are we dealing with here?
That's what I mean. It's like here. That's what I'm saying. And here's this fierce team that you have. And you've aggregated this team, and you're so amazing. Like seriously, folks, this is like such a unicorn of a woman. I just have so much respect for you. And you are so up against it, and I know it. And that's such, to me, really does paint the picture so clearly because, we have to be, and not everyone can do this. Not everyone. People have to support their families, their children. So how much time can you balance advocating? I just happen to be, have grown children, so I could take some time off, and I decided, I have to be there because I wasn't that girl. I wasn't that helicopter daughter until I had to be. So I tried to be, and also, and I've said this before, I have the disease to please, and I was always like, could you, so sorry to bother you, da 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 da, and then finally by the end you're freaking Shirley MacLaine and you're screaming like, come on, she's hot, what's going on, she's thirsty and hungry, I hate you, all of you.
families are in the most impossible situation. They are, because people are dealing, if you have little children, you're trying to balance little children, a house, a mortgage, you're working yourself, and you've got a parent or a loved one in a facility. The strength and the energy that you have for even the understanding, and that's a big part about what we find really important, is about educating people to know your rights. No, you are allowed to say, what the hell? You are allowed to say, no, you're not prescribing that. You can push back because you have the right to do that. And I will also acknowledge, though, that it's scary for families, because I know in Colorado, and I'm guessing it's the same across other parts of the country, we have a really big chronic availability of nursing home beds.
That's right.
So push too hard, and all of a sudden, they're not appropriate for our level of care. We think they should be somewhere else. And you're like, but there isn't anywhere else. And Medicaid, if you're private, you can kind of get a bed where you want.
No, I got that all the time.
Yep, if you're
You
Medicaid,
can take her home.
You can take her home.
take her home
if you want to.
knowing you can't do that.
Exactly.
That's cruel. That's absolutely cruel to do that to family. It's so not fair for professionals to say something like that. Yeah.
I mean,
So is there? Oh, I was going to say. Oh, go ahead, Suze. I mean, because
No,
you're
go
just
ahead.
stay on the thread. I have an okay. No, I was just going to say, is there or can there be any portal, websites, social media saying this place sucks? This place is not good. This is a 1-star facility, not a 5-star facility. Here's all the cases. So when you go to, set up something for your, that basically starts shaming these places. They're in business. And businesses, there's the Better Business Bureau. Do they do anything? No. But you can always go there and say, here's the 50 complaints about this business.
But here's the problem with that. Just what Bettina just said. There's most places don't have any. There's a bed shortage, so you're sort of stuck. So this place may be the only place available, and your loved one needs long-term care.
I understand,
So
but
we're
I'm
stuck
talking
between a
about, we got to start, but these are businesses, and
They
if
do
the
have
businesses,
Yeah.
is that something you have,
They do
or
have
is
them.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 ways here, and one of them I know is across, and they both actually would be across the country in many formats. So there's one, there are online forums where you can actually rate, and then they are given a rating of 1 to 5. I would say though, I would tell anyone to take those ratings with a grain of salt, because we investigate everything from 1 to 5, and that's the same.
But that's what I'm
level of
talking about.
concern.
Something coming from your perspective, from you. Here, this is our official star ratings. Because if it came from you, the people who are in charge of kind of overseeing this thing, not from some. I just think there would be some power to that.
Well, there is some, but there are some, Dawn. There are some transparency organizations that are starting to do that, and even identifying who the owners are, the true owners. There was a regulation from CMS, or I think they're in the middle of it, trying to enforce that, or to create a regulation. But at the end of the day, it is this is what we have. That's all we have. We have one apple. That's it.
And
I know.
The Department of Health here will publicly release investigations and concerns into facilities. What I would say to that is some of the difficulties or challenges they have is that by the time they've released it, it's can often be a considerable time after the fact. And the majority of families don't even know that they can go there and access it.
Well, that's the thing, is where there need to be that's part of the education.
Right.
It's part of educating the public and saying there are these, these facilities or these things that you can go and see where you're going. Where's your loved one going?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I know everything you can always say, hey, well, we can't do that. We can't, but I think it's got to be a multi-thousand prong attack on change. And, because
the change has to come at the top, because that's where.
But the top, yeah. I know.
I mean,
it's saying write your congressman, write your this, but that's fine. But what's your congressman doing?
No,
They're
because
looking
the nursing home lobby are holding hands with the Congress.
They're pretty powerful, which I don't know. I think that would be surprising to a lot of people, is to know actually how powerful the lobbyists are in that area. It shocked me when I started to learn. I'm like, they even have lobbyists?
Well, it's
Yeah, they do.
corporations. It's big
Exactly.
corporations. So
Well,
And
I-
we just
I-
don't. Yeah.
My partner, who is a federal prosecutor for years and years, he reckons that they're more powerful than the pharmaceutical lobbyists. So they're not on the radar because nobody would think it.
Nobody would know, because who would ever connect a nursing home to a lobbyist?
Right.
Like, no one would ever think nursing home politics, like, yeah, at all. But they're there because there's a lot of money to be made.
Yep.
You know, research again also shows that, and this is like very varying different countries, is that mortality is actually increased if you enter a not-for-profit nursing home. You are more likely to have healthier and better care and live longer healthier in a not-for-profit nursing home than if you are actually in a for-profit nursing home.
Oh, for sure. And but the nonprofits,
because they're
there's
doing it for
also
the right reasons. Yeah,
some
there's
of
also
them,
issues
but
there.
there's still some issues there. There's still some nonprofits that are, there's a way of structuring it. So
Are in
there's-
quotes.
Yeah.
I do. Oh, I'm sorry. I did air quotes.
Yeah, you were told. Don't you?
Profit.
Yeah, Don, that's it. Okay, you're on.
Sorry.
You're on
I
probation.
I get one an episode.
So let me see if I have any more notes on my free people receipt. Let me see.
Very sophisticated.
Yeah.
Yes, we are professional.
Yes. Yeah. No, I was taught. No, I think because I was re-listening to our conversation before our pre-interview, and I was listening to your interview on all home care matters, and
yeah.
and it just I feel like the conversation it's on a merry-go-round. We're just we're going. Da, 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 just like it's very depressing to me, and I love that you're so honest and open to say what you're doing, and what you're doing. I think being the thorn and the nose and the noisy, making good
Squeaky
trouble.
wheel, yeah.
You're making good trouble. I think we all, as much as we can, need to make as big a trouble as we can until the system changes, from the top down, until we can just break it down, blow it up, and start all over again. So
It's so important. It's advocacy. It's just pure advocacy. It's so important. Like, this is us in years to come. If we're
all
privileged
of
enough
us.
to live, it's all of us. Like, it's not the others. It's not somebody else. This is potentially any one of us. Why would we want that for us? Why would we want it for our mums and dads and our sisters and our grandparents? We just don't want that. So
no.
why are we funding it through our taxpayers? Like, it does. It needs to be dismantled. We need to go from this merry-go-round to a gravitron, and then something that's going to actually shoot it off
Right.
and really set it up again.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, until that happens, which I hope that this documentary will at least, cause enough noise for people to actually take a look and go, okay, we need power to the people, and get out there and make, we have the power. We just have to get people to, that's where the education becomes really important. And if we have to scare people, then we have to scare people. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is what it is. I didn't do it. I'm not making this up, and I'm not trying to be inflammatory or, what's that? I can't think of that. Where you're a conspiracy theorist. That's not me for sure. That's not me.
This isn't what you want to be doing right now, honestly.
I'd
this
rather
is
be
not
doing-
what you want to be doing.
No, you don't want to be doing this, Bettina. You want to be able to go in and find. It's like for the few bad actors. Like, that's what I think people look
That
at.
would
that
be great.
right?
Yeah.
Like, you'd go in,
Yeah.
you'd go, okay, you're out. You're penalized. This is what's happening to you, and da da da. But that's not it. So you guys are like pushing the rock up the hill too, and
Yeah.
so everybody's getting. If they. Eventually you get burned out because and I've talked to so
Yeah.
many caregivers who've gone through what I've gone through, and when their loved one passes away, they're done.
Yeah. Oh, the toll, not just emotionally but physically, on care providers is enormous. And the other thing I would say is that, often, obviously, we can butt heads a little bit with nursing homes, but we also, if we were all on the same page, just being, let's just do the right thing for the actual resident, we actually could help them. Because why would they want the liability of having someone that's abusing as an employee? Like, we actually can identify, have them put on a registry, and save their entire business from actually having these people employed. Like, if we were working together for the common goal, we could actually be changing the system as it is. And, you know, sometimes there are staff on the ground level who do want to do that. And I have to say, we have had staff members on the ground level who have privately said stuff to us about their management company, that their management company would just fire them on the spot if they knew they had disclosed stuff to my staff. Absolutely fire them on the spot, because their belief is about actually the residents.
For sure.
And they do care, but they don't have the power. So somebody has to like come together to actually formulate this power and make it happen.
Right.
You know, another thing that I actually think is really important, and this is going to be very unpopular, but is that I think nursing homes, they need to look at fingerprinting for their background checks. At the moment, many states only require name checks. Name checks.
Yeah.
I mean, you're caring for the most vulnerable population. My argument would be is that, you know, we really do need to look at fingerprinting checks so that it's federal. It crosses the whole country, so people can't commit serious crimes in one state and go to another with an apparent clean slate. Like, that's a really important element of protection and safety. There are so many other health professional industries that require fingerprint checking.
Yeah, but
background checks.
Look at the movie Good Nurse, which was based on a true story, and that nurse, that guy that was killing people, putting whatever he put into their IV. I mean, he went from facility to facility, and because, you know, when there becomes a shortage and they're desperate, these places to hire, and so like you said, the background checks are minimal, or, you know.
Mm-hmm. They're
cursory.
Yeah.
They're cursory. And so, I told you this the last time we talked, that when I've interviewed many nurses that have been disruptors and have, you know, lost their job because they've gone to the top and said, no, this is happening and I can't be a party to it, and then they get fired. And then I said, well, how do you get hired again? And they said, because nobody checks.
Frightening. Isn't that scary?
So see, I'm sorry, but that is scary, and I'm scared. So we need to be scared. We need to be scared.
Is there, I mean, I know the pushback, the privacy issues, the costs, the rights of has there ever been talk of putting cameras in these rooms, and so you can see what the heck is going on in there?
Some states can.
If they do, I can't imagine. I got to imagine that's going to cut down some of the issues, especially abuse. Neglect is hard to show on camera, and I know neglect is abuse, but there's still a different, as opposed to actual, you know. But is there where's the state of that?
The actual official state, as in the government state, would never be able to enact that. But there are different stories of like actual family members like inserting. Some of them have been hidden, some a bit more overt. Mostly have been hidden, and they're the ones that are because for a reason they're suspecting something, and unfortunately they've actually been proven right with their suspicions many a time. And that's not just here. We have plenty of cases, sadly enough, in Australia too, where our aged care system has just undergone an enormous government inquiry because of the abuse and neglect and the poor standards there as well. So it's not even just the United States. It's unfortunately something that needs to be tackled at a higher level. But yeah, cameras does hit the issue of like safety, privacy, all those areas.
Yeah. Who are we trying to protect? Who are we trying to protect?
Well, yeah, obviously if a facility says that they're not allowed, but it's also state by state.
Like with you
state by
when
state.
you wanted to take a picture of your mother's bed sore. That's your mother. They would not allow it. They said, no, you can't do that. You cannot do that's against policy, and you can't do it. It's like, really?
Yeah, but what happens
Really?
is that you get to a point where your bar gets lower because you're up against, it's like Stockholm syndrome, because it's like, okay, I got to choose my battles. So it's like, fine, I won't take a picture because they're going to cause a big problem that's even more distracting from taking care of my mom.
And threaten to kick your mom out,
Yeah.
Or just don't care about her. And just, so the retaliation kind of, fear that we have as caregivers.
Well, even when they came into Turner, they'd say, "Okay, you got to leave." Really? You have to leave? You're the conservator of her person. You are her daughter, and you have to leave
because they didn't want me to see.
Unless they needed you to help them because they were understaffed.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah. So there's that.
Well, what else? Is there anything that you? And this what a happy episode. Love conquers all, you guys. It does.
Well, you must love what you do because you couldn't do this
Look
unless
at her.
you did.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
Look at her. I mean, all of us that are doing this, we have to keep fighting because we can, at least if we help a little tiny bit and get noisy and big and make, it's like when a bear comes, what are you supposed to do? You're not supposed to run away, and you're not supposed to lay down. You're supposed to get big, right? I was just telling Dawn that, and you're supposed to, growl really loud, and then that's what they tell you. So
depends on the bear, but that's
no, it's true. No. So I say get big and loud. Get as big as you can and as loud as you can until we can fix this freaking system.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. I 100% believe that when people come together, they actually can affect change. They do. Sometimes it takes a really long time, but if you're committed and you stick to it, you can. I mean, state of Colorado has done some incredible things with legislation and practice in my particular area, which has just been really impressive, and it's motivational. And I think that we can be doing it on a much bigger scale. We can do it nationally here. And you know what? If nationally here we are together and we are showing what can be accomplished, imagine how beneficial that is for other countries who can actually see if the United States accomplished this, then we can too. We can actually affect change for our residents and our nursing homes as well. So there's a lot at stake. And I just believe that together we're so much stronger and we actually can make a change.
I agree too, and I think you can look at it in the opposite way. And we are role models for the world. America is very powerful that way. And look what our Western individualism has done. It's permeated so many countries that didn't have that were really much more communal. And I hear from people in Egypt and in Asia, and where they used to revere their elders, and it's permeated. It's become, that has become that is the paradigm. And also, even in, like you were saying, in England, where you think, and also Australia, I mean, it's there. It's this individualism that's permeated everywhere.
You have to turn that model around.
Right, so if we can do it negatively, let's do it positively.
Do it positively.
Yeah. And if it's capitalism that is the motivation, then let's figure out a way to make that, work in that direction, but in a good way. I don't,
Yeah, exactly. And, it's not about even there can be money made, but where are our priorities? As human beings, as a society, we should be doing better.
And also one thing, and everyone says this is such a huge problem. It's overwhelming. How can we? If you were to save one person's life today, I think you'd go home feeling pretty good.
Oh yeah,
pretty good. So if we say, you know what I mean? It's got to start somewhere.
Yes.
And we can't fix it all at once, but we can start making a difference now. And
Absolutely.
if it's saving one person a day or making one person's life better a day, so be it. And then go from there.
Yeah.
But let's not look at it this fatalistically. Let's look at it, that's how you have to wake up in the morning.
Absolutely. And these are the benefits of people like Don and Susie and Lance with All Home Care Matters and other people who are doing podcasts, is providing this platform to all of the communities and societies for people to tune into and go, oh, I do have those rights, or I didn't know that before, and I didn't know there was the benefit of this or the danger of that. How all of these platforms that you have developed for everybody around the country to dig into. I mean, this is part of that movement, is helping educate and support everybody out there. I just saw the statistic was actually now at 6.7 million people with dementia or it might have actually just been specifically Alzheimer's across the country. So we know we're on a trajectory of growing, and your platforms are some of the strength-based foundations to help people be motivated and be like, I need to say more. I'm not going to accept this. I'm not going to tolerate it.
Thank you for that. Thank you. And I think that, you know, it is about love, because I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't love and care. I wouldn't be putting myself out there like this. You know, I would be talking about, oh, here's tips on what to do for an activity in the afternoon with your loved one. I mean, and there's plenty, and that's worthwhile. But
yes,
but I saw things that I can't unsee.
You can't unsee. Yeah. That's a different place. And those guidance and tips are really great for different people at different points and stages of where they are. Because, you know, some people, if there's any sort of like light, who do experience pleasant confusion. So that would be like the ultimate. If you're going to experience dementia, and pleasant confusion is like your single symptom, or not your single, but your single primary symptom. As compared to the spectrum that we have, there's a really big spectrum of how dementia can affect people. So you can have pleasant confusion, or you can have really big outbursts, like significant psychological symptoms of dementia that, you know, you might be lashing out at people and have lots of very intense delusions and hallucinations. And so those tips are really good for when you can have someone at home. But we know that everyone's experience is different, from the person with dementia to the person providing care and all their surrounding families. And where you're at is you're at this end of the spectrum. You've seen the worst of the worst, and now your goal and where your place is in this world is to be helping everyone else who has seen what you can't unsee as well, because there are more of you out there, and they need support as much. Yeah,
they do, and I think it's an honor in a way to do this. So, you know, and I didn't sign up for it. It's like I always say that Lisa Gibbons, who's like one of my a good friend, and she's been in this field for a long time. She always says, you know, nobody grows up saying, I want to grow up and be a caregiver. It's not sexy, it's not glamorous, and there are no caregiver Barbies, you know. And so
there should be.
There should be. So I'm promoting for caregiver Barbie, and and so be it. Let's just be loud, you guys. Anything else you wanted to say before we say adieu?
No, thank you for having me on your platform, and thank you for everything you're doing to like support everyone out there. It's so invaluable, and I very much appreciate both the effort and time you both put into this.
Back at you.
We appreciate you completely, and I'm sure a lot of people out there appreciate what you're doing. So keep it going.
Thank you.
Thank you. To be continued.
Absolutely.
Take care. Bettina Morrow is good people.
Good people.
Good people. I really
because
liked
only
her.
a good person would do what she's doing, obviously.
Yeah.
But she's just such a spirit too. She's just got this energy and positivity, and considering what she's doing, to have that is amazing still, you know, to not be run down by it, you know.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
So
Fabulous.
I hope everybody got a lot out of that. And we didn't mean to be so negative, but we're not being negative because it's really leading towards change. So we're just trying to, you know, be transparent of what we see, you know, and I think that Bettina really gave a good side to it, you know, being a professional advocate and what she's up against and her team. So that really paints a picture for us as caregivers what we are up against, because we don't know, and they know all the ins and outs, and it's still so hard, and it's still, they have to go and keep advocating. So the point is, until it changes, keep advocating. Get big like a bear. Get big.
Use your voice and growl. Growl.
Get really bad. And because it's really at the end of the day about love.
And Bettina obviously loves what she does. She, you know, you can't do that without loving it. So it's all love. Yeah. So.
And that is why we named
that
our
is
show.
Because that's right, and that's because love is powerful. Love is contagious, and love conquers all. We thank everyone, including you out there, who listened or watched today. Please always share, like, do all those good things, and please do look into supporting our upcoming documentary, No Country for Old People. We need your help, and we need it in a big way. And we have to say it's money at this point.
Yeah, it's for all of us, and if you can't, again, I just encourage you to share it. And find, if you know any like-minded philanthropists, that's awesome. And until then, we'll talk to you. We'll see you next time.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Hey, this is Susie Singer Carter, and I just wanted to take a minute to talk to you about bed sores. I know, but if you're like I was, you probably don't have a clue what a bed sore really is. Most people don't. I mean, no one told me, and I really just assumed it was part of the body that was, like the name says, sore from laying in one position too long. And if you change the position, all better. Wrong. Bed sore is really a euphemism for more appropriate names, such as pressure wound and decubitus ulcer. Unfortunately, I discovered what a bed sore really was when my mom was admitted into the hospital last year with a stage 4 ulcer. That is the worst level. You don't ever want that to happen. Bed sores can develop quickly and worsen rapidly and can lead to serious health issues, even death, if they're not properly treated or properly treated, and that includes cleaning and dressing the wound, but most importantly, reducing pressure off the sore by frequently changing the position of the person off of their wound so it can heal. And that can mean propping the person up 30 degrees to the side, far enough to be off the lower back, but not too far as to be on the side hip where there isn't much cushion, right, between the skin and the bone. This is why I'm so excited to tell you about Bed Sore Rescue, which was designed by an amazing woman, Gwen Jewell, a nurse who was tired of fooling around with simple pillows and bulky wedges that just don't work. The Bed Sore Rescue positioning wedge cushions are uniquely designed to provide ergonomically correct and comfortable support for a sustained period of time without touching the sore. And the curvatures and bilateral angles make it possible for the bed sore cushion to be used to support many other body parts as well. You can float the heels, you can put it under the head, you can put it under the arms, behind the knees, both sides. You can even use it as a breakfast in bed table. The curvatures of the Bed Sore Rescue fit the curvatures of your person's body, and it's made to meet all the patient safeties and bed-bound positioning standards for acute and long-term care facilities. I wish I had it for my mom. I really do. So chances are, if you have a loved one in a long-term care facility or at your home, you may become a pressure injury soldier too. But bed sores should never get to stage 4. And one way to ensure that they don't is to make sure that as soon as one begins to develop, you keep the pressure off. You can do that easily with Bed Sore Rescue. And you can find Bed Sore Rescue and many other pressure solutions online at Jewell Nursing Solutions, home of the patented Bed Sore Rescue positioning wedge cushions, pads, and pillows. That's Jewell, Jewell, NursingSolutions.com. And when you use the special code NCFOP, the entire amount of your purchase will go to support our important documentary, No Country for Old People, which chronicles my mother's journey navigating the nursing home long-term care crisis that literally began with an unreported, untreated pressure wound. So take the pressure off yourself and your loved one with the Bed Sore Rescue.